Welcome, everyone. This is Brian Marshall, host of the C-Suite Sherpas Podcast, and we have a great guest with us today. Byron Aulick is with us. And so, Byron, tell us a bit about your business and who you work with.
Okay. Well, thank you for having me on. The name of the business is EY Technology Solutions. I started the company in 1993 after being in business for about 7 years dealing with commercial and consumer lending applications and banks. The business was born out of a desire to try to make companies operate more smoothly, more efficiently, more effectively, and helping people be more proficient at their jobs. What we found was people are out there and they're doing a role in the organization that they were trained on how to do many years ago, but the roles have changed and how they do things have changed, but they really haven't documented any of that. So I started the company we've done about 4,000 accounts to date. We've helped a lot of people save an awful lot of money, but more than that, learn how to make more top-line revenue.
Yeah, so you brought up a couple of key things I want to maybe we can dive a bit into. So you talk about, let's say I'm sitting here, I'm watching this video, and I'm an owner of a business. Let's say it's a $40-50 million business, and I've got and I'm really proud of the fact that my average employee tenure is 25 years, and I've got some really key employees that have been doing the same thing for 30 years. None of it's documented. My biggest fear is I'm going to lose these folks, and out the door is going to walk out the institutional knowledge that comes with it. Yep. So tell me, is that if that's a good prospect for you, and then what would you do to help me as an owner solve that problem?
Well, first off, I hear that scenario all the time. That's a real world scenario because people have been at their jobs for a long time. They have what's called tribal knowledge. They know how to run the finance department. They know how to run the HR department. They know everything there is about running the business. The challenge becomes a term I call business continuity. And that means that, let's say that the person's name is Betty Lou. I'm just pulling that out of the air. But let's say Betty Lou's been there 20 years. She's running the finance department. She knows how to do it. She hits the lottery. She goes away. Right. The business owner says, oh, okay, darn, I'm going to hire somebody new to replace her. But here's my challenge to the business owner. On day one of that new employee's start, what are you going to tell that person they need to do? And the answer is they really don't know. Well, I know in the finance department, they have to pay the bills. So please get the bills paid as quick as you can. Problem is the business owner doesn't know how Betty Lou used to pay those bills. The business owner trained Betty Lou 20 years ago. But that has changed. Betty Lou since then has found all these different shortcuts and better ways to do it. But none of that's been documented. So what we do is we do what's called a BPA, a business process analysis, where we come on site, we interview Betty Lou and all the staff, we document the current state, we compare that against best industry practices to look for inefficiencies or things that are broken. Then we do a gap analysis, where you used to do it this way, maybe you ought to apply technology, artificial intelligence, RPA, there's a whole bunch of technology words I could use, but apply some technology and do it a better way towards the future state. Right. And what would good look like? What would that future state look like? So we give that back to them in a report.
All right. So the foundation of what you do is really it's a consulting service. I would imagine there's some on-site work that you do. Do you do any of the work virtually? Tell us about, especially with COVID and how that's all changed. What percentage is on-site versus virtual?
Wasn't COVID great? The answer is yes and yes. We do the pre-calls and the interview process up front, so that people understand what we're doing. That you don't want them to think that it's the Great Inquisition, and all of a sudden, if they tell us workflows are broken, they're going to get fired. Yeah. So I have to talk to them, and basically what I'm doing is I'm virtually putting my arm around he or she and saying, I'm here to make your life easier. Please tell me how, because they can tell you how to do it. Right. You've got to know the questions to ask. And that's why having a third party, such as us, come alongside, we get more relevant information, more accurate information. So I put my arm around and do that virtually, but then we do go on site. So having said that, I've gone to, if you look behind me, I've gone to South Africa, 4 times going on site. I've gone to Panama, I've gone to Puerto Rico, I've gone to the Bahamas, I've gone to, Barbados, you name it, I've gone there. So we fly out, and it's not just me, I have a small team, but we fly out and we go on site where we continue the interview process to document the current state, taking pictures, taking copious notes, understanding all of it. And then we bring it back. It's usually 2 or 3 days on site and 2 or 3 weeks back at the office to compile it all.
Got it. So what I gathered is you only go to places where the weather is warm during the winter time. That's what I heard.
Well, the truth is they're asking me to go to Yellowknife. Yellowknife is up by the polar cap right now up in Canada.
Yeah.
And I said I would go, so we'll see.
I don't know. That'd be a tough one, but yeah, you're a better man than me. I can't do the cold weather anymore. I'm thinking through the idea here is that you come in, you help them document and optimize their business processes. So what's the justification, right? Because if you don't have some sort of a return on investment they're going for, then it also always becomes a saving cost initiative. So how do you deal with that with clients? How do you help them understand and calculate the return and then work with them to make sure they get that return for the investment they're going to make? Because I would imagine it's not like, this is not an inexpensive, this is a fairly serious commitment that a business has to make to work with you.
Well, cost. So let me start at the beginning.
Yeah.
You asked about 3 different things right there.
I did.
First off, cost is commensurate with level of effort. So if it's a 2 days on site, 2 or 3 weeks back at the office, it costs a certain amount of money. Let me share something with you. I have held a Big Four accounting firm, I shouldn't use the name, but I've held a Big Four accounting firm report very similar to what we do in my hands for a worldwide company in Boston that does cleaning. They clean the White House.
Right.
Okay. So I've held the report and I looked at the guy. This was the CFO of the company. I looked at him, I said, what did you do with that report? He paid $500,000 for the report. I said, what'd you do with it? He looks at me and he says, it's shelfware.
That's bookshelf trophies. Yeah.
And I said, okay, what does that mean? And he said, well, I mean, candidly, would you want to read a report that's this thick? Number one. And number two, honestly, it doesn't have what I would call the cost of doing nothing.
Right.
In my reports, I establish a cost of, if you look at me and you say, Byron, that's a great idea, someday we ought to do that, then I have failed.
That's right.
Because I need to say your problem isn't a $10,000 problem. It's a $50,000 problem or a $500,000 problem. If it is, and the solution, if it's a $500K problem and your solution costs $100K, it's wisdom to go ahead and do that.
Right.
But if the solution is $100K and you have a $50,000 problem, that's not a good investment.
Yeah.
So my comment to you is that same company that I held that report in my hands hired me, flew me out to Chicago to their headquarters, where I made a 56-page report, which I could show you some other time.
Sure.
56-page report, which had a full business case with ROI built in and payback period built in. So when you're looking at payback periods that are measured in days, then it's wisdom to go ahead and take action on it. But the difference, I think where you're going at is, what's the difference between what we do and what the Big Four accounting firms do?
That's right.
They do a huge report. I do a smaller report. I have no fluff at all in my report. They charge this much money and I charge this much money.
And I would bet the return that you get is similar in return, but the lower cost means your ROI is much greater.
Well, you can realize that return a lot quicker if you didn't spend that much money.
You and I were talking before the podcast, and you said something that stuck with me. You talked about a phrase that you use.
The phrase is called resolutionary thinking.
Yeah.
And it's a term that I've actually got a trademark that's pending right now on. And what it means is it's a resolutionary thinking process. It's called a discovery framework, mixed methodology, and resolutionary thinking. I've taught about 4,000 students how to do this.
Yeah.
So not only do we do consulting, but we teach others how to do consulting. Some very big names, including NASA is one of my current accounts right now.
Sure.
But resolutionary thinking is the process of don't show up and just tell me the problems. Show up and tell me the problem and a solution.
There you go.
That's what we do.
I love that. I was an officer of a publicly traded company. I had 1,500 people that reported in through me. And I had a phrase that said, hey, if you're going to bring me a problem, make sure you bring me a solution because I already have enough problems.
That's right.
and that's just it. If they didn't bring me the solution, then come back to me with the solution because I already know we have lots of problems. So, but I didn't think about that resolutionary thinking approach. That's I love that. That's Too bad you're trademarking it, because I was going to jump on that and get resolutionarythinking.com. But of course,
Well, the reason why we did it is you can't really see it on my shirt, but it says Certified Efficiency Expert Master. Yep. So that's another one that we've got a trademark on. So Certified Efficiency Expert means the obvious. It means we go on site, we find out what you're doing, we tell you where it's broken, we make proactive suggestions, and then you decide. I had a student tell me one time, speed costs money, how fast do you want to go? So it's the truth. I give the information of process improvement to my paying customers. They decide, hey, man, this is really good, but it's going to cost me a lot of money to do it. How about if we do a phased approach? We'll do phase 1 in Q1, phase 2 in Q2, et cetera, et cetera. So we don't come in and tell them, we have all the answers. You have to do exactly what we say. We come in and we say, let's co-author a solution for your problem.
Right. No, it's a great perspective. I really like that. So, one last question, and then we'll move on to the lightning round, have a little bit of fun, and then tell people how to get in contact with you. What is the biggest challenge that you're seeing in your industry? And I bring up as an example, like the impact of AI on business and the change it's going to drive in terms of workflows and who does what. As an example, but I don't mean to say that that's the biggest challenge. But what are the biggest challenge, or what's the biggest challenge that you see that you're going to have to face?
Brian, AI is already impacting businesses. I mean, candidly, I use ChatGPT every single day.
Yeah, me too.
AI is not being used by the companies, and they have a big issue just to begin with. But the biggest challenge, I'm going to answer your question honestly. The biggest challenge that I see is pride.
Yeah.
Pride. I go in all the time and I talk to people, and I coined a phrase called get to know early, and know means NO. So I go and I say, hey, look, we could come alongside of you, identify your processes, make proactive suggestions how to change that. And by the way, we don't sell any of the solutions.
Right.
So we are just the subject matter experts. But I say, if we could make you better, if we could save you 50% of your operational costs over the next 5 years, if we could help you get 10% more top line revenue, is this something you'd be willing to do? And they always say yes, but then they say, well, how do you do that? And I say, well, we have to find broken workflows. If they look at me at that point and say, we don't have any broken workflows, they're not a good customer of ours.
No, so I would imagine a good customer would say, listen, we have so many things that need to be improved. We just don't know how to do it, or we don't have the resources. Can you help us?
Yep.
Yeah.
Many years ago, Teddy Roosevelt, I think he was the 26th president of the U.S. He said this, and I've remembered it ever since. He said, in times of decision, the best thing to do is the right thing. The next best thing to do is the wrong thing. And the worst thing you can do is nothing.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm talking to my clients about. Yeah. You want to do nothing? Great. Next year will look a lot like this year. But if you want to improve, there's room.
You brought up something early, and I'll just mention this. We're not going to have time to dig into it, but I'd love to get together with you again and talk a little deeper about what you do and how you do it on a different podcast. But you talk about that cost of doing nothing. And, that's another great perspective, because I've always told my clients, because we're in a similar business, we do something different, and we get into a lot of these big picture discussions. And I tell them, listen, you're already paying for it through inefficiency. I want to help you get that money back. You're actually losing money. So I had never thought about the cost of doing nothing. They're already paying that cost. They're paying, it's like a tax. It's an inefficiency.
Brian, have you heard of early pay discounts?
Yeah.
So early pay, it's a 5% net 10 discount. So any company pile up their bills on their table. How would you like to pay 5% less of those bills? You can, if you pay it in less than 10 days.
Right.
Check it out. Cost of doing nothing. You pay it in 40 days, you pay the full invoice amount. You pay it in 8 days, you pay 5% less than that.
Yeah, it's a great example. All right, let's switch gears a bit. Let's go to the, I like to call it the lightning round. It's just a little fun thing we do to lighten things up, have people get to know you, maybe your personality a bit. So I'm going to ask you some quick questions. Just answer it, whatever comes to mind. There's no wrong answers. So
okay.
Let's, are you ready to roll?
Sure.
Yep. All right, good. So coffee or tea?
Tea. I lived in England for 3 years.
Tea time, high tea. Cats and dogs, or cats or dogs, I'm sorry.
Black Labrador Retriever.
Excellent. I knew there's a reason I liked you. If you can only grab one weapon or item during the zombie apocalypse, what would it be?
My AR-15.
Well, you and I have the same answer for the first three. That's awesome. Favorite quote or phrase that you think about often?
The one I just told you, which is, how about take some action and make a decision?
Okay. What about your favorite movie?
Wreck.
And how about?
Because I have 12 grandchildren. I mean, what do you expect?
Exactly. Yeah. So what about, is there a streaming series you're watching? Or favorite streaming series that
Santa
you'd recommend?
Clarita Diet.
Ah,
Really strange and macabre, but a lot of fun.
that's a very strange one. Yeah. Somebody turned me on to Suits. I just started watching it. It's actually really good. So,
Nice.
how about a book that you've either just finished or a book you're reading?
The Bible.
Amen.
And I read a lot about nutrition and homeopathic remedies.
All right, cool. Bucket list item you've already accomplished.
4 trips to South Africa.
Nice. And how about one that you're planning to accomplish, but you haven't done it yet?
Solo pilot's license, which I'm working.
Nice. And last question, biggest obstacle that you've personally had to overcome and one big lesson that you learned from it?
Learning that you are actually capable of doing anything. You actually have to try. I'm sitting talking to you in a 5,000 square foot house. These two hands put every piece of tile that's on the floor throughout this whole house. And I'd never done that before.
Yeah.
So my takeaway is, dude, you can probably do it. Give it a shot.
Yeah, no, it talks about the power of the mind, and that's a great way to end this. So we've got people that are watching this video right now, and they're wondering how do they get in touch with you? So what's the best way to reach out to you to collaborate with or talk to you about doing business?
It's ewidetech.com. It's my name, Byron, Byron, Aulick, Aulick, at ewidetech.com.
Okay. And we'll go ahead and we'll post that. We have a YouTube channel where we post all the videos. And so in the description, I'll have a little bit about you and then how to get in contact with you. So people won't have to be feverishly writing this down. They can just check the description for the video that they're watching and you'll find all that information. So,
Excellent.
So listen, Byron, great to get to know you a little bit. Look forward to getting to know you deeper. I appreciate you being on the podcast, and I can definitely see that there are a lot of people out there that could use your help. So hopefully this was helpful for you. And again, appreciate you being a guest.
I appreciate you inviting me, Brian. Thank you very much. I believe in what you're doing.
Great.